Hey.
Welcome back. Everyone, happy 2022.
2020 you.
Oh, fuck. Are we going to have to talk about resolutions?
No, God, no.
Okay, good.
Do you want to?
Here's my thought about resolutions. I will stay before we get started today. Today's episode is about being alone. So maybe if your resolution is to be alone more, that's great. We're going to help you out here today about some information about that. But here's my thought about resolutions. I think they fail just as much as diets do. Mm-hmm. But I have the same resolution every single year. Do you know what it is?
No.
It is to work less and waste less.
Oh, I did know that.
You did know that. That's
yes.
what I think I do every year. Is I'd like to work less and I would like to waste less on the planet. Like less single-use plastic, be more aware. Last year, our big thing is we moved to all towels in our house. We don't have any paper towels anymore,
it's amazing.
You know. We're that house you go to, it's very annoying. But in general, each year...
Doing a lot of wash.
We have a lot of wash. We're already doing a lot of wash, right? So composting was the year before that we got super into, as you know. So like every year we try to do like a big environmental switch. And that's our resolution. Do you have one?
I mean, now mine's going to sound like dog shit.
Is it buy more scratch-offs?
It's definitely not buy more scratch-offs. Okay. I'll tell you what it is.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
So I think last year it was drink more water.
How'd that go for you?
Not great. My next thing was going to be like, okay, and I think it's a metaphor for my life in general, so I'm just going to prep you at this, is buy like different things from the grocery store.
Oh, like try a new variety?
New variety of things.
Oh,
you know
I love that idea.
You kind of go there on autopilot and you're just like, oh, I'm just going to get the same shit I always get. Yeah. I want to try new things. Get something new every time I go.
I really love that.
And so it's a metaphor for my life in the sense of stepping out of my comfort zone.
Oh, that's a good one. And that's a really cool way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. I like
that.
I like that. I do really dig that. Hey.
And I'm going to apparently waste less too, so I don't sound like an asshole.
Yeah, you should waste less for the environment. You know me. Okay, wait. But also, listen. Hey, if you're listening to today's episode, you could also watch us on YouTube because we have a whole new setup today. This is the farthest I've ever recorded from you.
It's really sad.
We're usually like, that's how
very
we got COVID.
Close. I know. That is how we got COVID.
The old setup is 100% how we both got COVID. Hey, also, if you had COVID over the holidays, maybe being alone episode's good for you. A lot of people
you're feeling better.
A lot of people had their holidays canceled.
And that's I saw a bunch of like TikToks where people were like outside the window.
I saw.
Did you see that?
I saw. Yes.
I thought that was so funny.
I like that too.
Good way to do it. Creativity. So, but a couple of reasons why we wanted to do this specific one. I think it was like beginning the last few months. You specifically have been struggling not having alone time.
So the last few months, I feel like we had put this question box up and a bunch of people had said like either they got too comfortable with alone time over the pandemic or now they can't ever be alone because they were so used to being someone or they were alone too much during the pandemic. And I think that is like a very difficult part. But I, since the beginning of the pandemic, have been at home with a child. And at one point I had my brother-in-law live with me. And then at one point we had this sitter and the nanny with us. And like, I just almost died.
Right. And
I crave alone time.
So we kind of aligned on this very much. I got Emmalee for her birthday. I got her a hotel room.
Yes.
So I think she really needed it.
Mm-hmm,
and afterwards, she was saying how recharged she was just to like have that time for herself.
Mm-hmm. And I think that people that couldn't believe that we've talked about a lot is that we go out to eat by ourselves, not like together, like individually. Right. We love, and like one of the things I did when you got me that hotel was I went to the restaurant by myself and had dinner and had drinks. And like, I like to take myself out to meals by myself. Me too. People wrote in like, holy shit.
Horrified.
I'm so uncomfortable with that idea.
So I actually, it also when I'm like having a hard time, especially I like to go out by myself. Yeah. Because I feel like it helps me recenter. Mm-hmm. And it's also very empowering to be able to do that and to say, I'm going to take this time for me. I'm going to take myself out to like a nice steak dinner. Yeah. Not have to talk to anyone.
Steak dinner.
I swear to God, I've done that.
A steak dinner. Medium. All right. Okay. Hey, there's benefits of being alone, like genuine research-based benefits. And I'm hoping you could tell us more about that. This was really, I'm going to let you take this episode a lot.
Because I love being alone.
You do fucking love it.
I did some research on it, too.
I want to hear it. Yeah.
So apparently it can improve concentration and memory. There is a study, bear with me, researchers found that groups working collaboratively to recall information perform worse than individuals recalling things on their own.
That's very interesting. Well, do you think that's also like, you know, this is not the right term for it, but like a mob mentality thing? Like somebody says something like, oh yeah, okay. Like we're so easily influenced by other people?
Yes, I think that that's probably part of it. And I think that when you take time internally, it helps you, right? Like if you think about how do you memorize something in general?
Yeah.
Right? Like you're internal about it.
You're so
practicing it. There's so much more like social influence when you're in a group that makes it, I think, harder to recall and focus on things because we talk about that sometimes too. Like if we need to be should we talk about the time we went to that infrared sauna?
Oh my God. Okay, so I won that on an Instagram giveaway. Okay, so those Instagram giveaways, everyone's like, nobody ever wins those. I won one. And won.
I have to say, you win everything.
I do win a lot of things. Okay. And so I had won a gift certificates for this infrared sauna place. What's that? The Wellness Refinery in Old City in South Philly. No, not South Philly, in Old City.
Old City, yeah.
And I highly recommend going.
Yes.
If
there's one in Northern Liberties now too, I think.
Great. Like, and so if you're interested, you should go there. But so we go, we're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go into this sauna, we're naked together, very normal. Wait, also can I say that the towels were so small, if you were in a plus size body, how small was that towel?
They were basically like face wash towels.
Okay, so like just so you know, if you're in a plus size body, you might want to bring your own towel if you want to have one because they will not fit onto your body. That's not about you. Don't feel embarrassed or ashamed about that. Doesn't fit on me. So we go in, we're naked. We're like, we're gonna sit in this sauna and we are going to make a discovery.
And we're gonna concentrate, right? Yes. So like you can turn on different infrared lights for like concentration, for memory.
I think we did blue.
And we were like, we are gonna go in here. We're gonna listen to music. And we're going to like regroup and focus on the business and come up with some good ideas. 3 minutes in, we were like, I'm going to pass out.
I think I was like, I need a pitcher of water. It was really bad. So like no ideas came, but you felt very nice afterwards.
But
so
keep
that in mind.
That was an attempt, right? I know we were together.
Yes.
But that's an example of something you can do by yourself too, to like recenter, regroup, refocus. Mm-hmm. Because I think that it's almost like putting boundaries around your mind to say,
okay, I like that idea.
Boundaries around your mind, right? To say, okay, I'm going to focus on what feels right for me, especially if you're someone who's really focused on like other people's feelings all the time or what's going on for other people. Sometimes you need that alone time to say, well, like, what's going on for me?
Yeah.
What do I need?
I like that. Wait, so I want to hear more about the health benefits and then we'll talk a little bit about being alone versus being lonely.
So another thing I said is being alone makes your interests a priority. So if you ever had an experience where you get into a relationship and all of the things that you once enjoyed to do somehow go away, right? Like your hobbies, like if maybe you did some arts and crafts, and when you get into a relationship, you end up doing things together and sometimes you lose yourself a little bit, right? So I think that can happen in relationships, that can happen in parenting, that can happen, or it can happen in work if you're working a lot. You can say, okay, wait, I have to recenter myself and say like, what am I interested in?
Yeah.
Sometimes I say go back to when you were a kid. Like if you're like, I don't have any hobbies and I have no idea what I'm interested in, go back to when you're a kid. Like what were the things that you gravitated towards?
Masturbation.
That's a hobby. That's a hobby.
What was it? No, I feel like dancing and like singing, but then like I have like a very, we talk about core memories of shame. I have a very shameful core memory of singing in front of other people and it being very embarrassing. And then I think I've stopped singing. And like you look like you're gonna cry for me, but like I don't feel that way now. But like I do think that like when I like reconnect and like something, as you know, like I've done some stuff with plant medicine and different things over the past year, and like singing has been a big part of that.
So the reason I looked like I was going to cry for you is because I think singing is such a vulnerable experience.
It really is.
And
I was mocked endlessly in 7th grade, which as everyone knows, middle school is the trauma of life.
It is. That.
Yes.
You've never said truer words. You were mocked?
Mocked. So okay, here's the story. Do you want the whole story?
Please.
Okay, if you want to hear my core memory. I don't know if this has to do with being alone, but I think it does have to do with like that we lose ourselves, right? And when we're always around people, we're thinking of other people's influence, right? So in 7th grade, at some point I asked my mom if I could do singing lessons, and I really wanted to sing the song from Milan that's like, you know what song I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Like, look at me. Yes. Right? I don't know the song. Yes, I do not know the lyrics. I probably blacked them out. And so we were having this like end of the semester talent show in 7th grade music class. And I was like, you know, I'm going to sing this. Everyone's going to think it was so good. It did not go well. It didn't. I couldn't get on the beat. I was anxious. I was nervous. Aww. And then I was like very embarrassed, but I kind of like shook it off. Like didn't do that much. And then the next period, these group of boys come up to me and the one goes, so Emmalee, are you good at singing? Like, I heard that you were really good at singing. And, like, I knew that they were, like, about to come and, like, call me out. So I was like, no, I'm very bad. And then the one guy was, like, pretty cool. And he was like, that's okay. I am, too. And the other guy was like, well, then why would you sing in front of the class like that? Right? So I have, like, this very embarrassing core memory. And we started, you really look like you're going to cry.
I'm not going to cry, but I just think that had to be so painful.
It was so painful. But how many of us I want you now listening to think. Do you have a very serious core memory that's embarrassment, that's shame, that was like really vulnerability gone wrong, and you then stopped doing that thing? Maybe it's dancing in public, maybe it's singing, maybe it's calling a friend and asking for help, right? Like there's like all these things that like you have this experience and then you're like, I can't do that. I have to protect myself. I can't go there again.
Like it no longer becomes something you're interested in because there's
trauma.
Fear around it, right? Like I'm going to be mocked for this, so I can't. But you can enjoy doing something
and suck at it
and not be good at it.
Right. But I didn't know that. At 7th grade, you think the only point of doing stuff is that like, I'm just going to stick to what I'm good at, what I'm naturally good at. Right. Which is like,
because it's protective.
Yes, exactly. Right. But it's also, there's so much bravery in trying stuff you suck at and just doing it because you like it.
Well, that's what I was also thinking is it was so brave of you to sing in front of the class.
I know.
I'm so impressed with you.
I thought that I was gonna like bring down the house though. Like I like have like a very distinct memory.
Would you sing like in your mirror like beforehand?
Of course.
That's like something you do.
Yes.
I feel like that's like I feel like it's a dream that like a lot of kids have of like singing and being like a.
Yeah, I think you're right. My nephew right now wants to like when we say like. My 6-year-old nephew, you say like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he says like, I want to be a singer.
How great performer. Would that be? So I have to say, when we had that Grease sing-along in the car.
That was healing for me.
That was a bonding.
And you didn't know that.
I didn't know. Because
I've never told this story before.
I was singing as terribly as you. I think it was probably.
But I've never told you this story before.
No, you
right?
haven't.
You had no idea.
Wow.
The nice man was named Kyle Stackhouse. If anyone still knows Kyle Stackhouse, he was the only one who said, that's okay, me.
I hope he listens to this.
I don't think so.
Speaking of, being alone also boosts creativity. Did you know? Research has found that people are often better at solving problems when they work on their own. Where group efforts are often about achieving consensus and fitting in with the crowd, solo work encourages innovation without added social pressure.
I can see that.
Me too. Improves your relationships. I'll tell you why.
Yeah. I'm in. I mean, I believe all of these because I love being alone. But you gotta convince the listeners.
So, right.
Right. I'm sold.
So, and this is something we talk a lot about in couples therapy to almost break the cycle of codependency, which I think often has been romanticized in, media and culture. And so, but the goal is not codependence, it's interdependence. And your ability to be interdependent relies on your ability to self-soothe and your ability to take care of yourself. And to first know what your needs are so that you can communicate them without the expectation of my partner always has to be the one to take care of me. Mm-hmm. And so being alone, recentering yourself and saying, hey, how am I doing? Like what's going on with me right now? What would I need? What's helpful for me? First allows you to recenter, take care of yourself, and then effectively communicate in your relationships as well. Mm-hmm. So I love that one. That's
a really good one.
That's a really good one. Makes you more productive.
Okay. This one I have trouble buying.
Tell me.
Mainly because it does not make me more productive. I am way more productive when there's someone else like working. I feel like I do very well with like parallel work study. Like you know what I mean? Like if someone else
parallel play,
exactly, right? Like, but like I feel like I do not work well individually. I guess maybe sometimes if I'm in the right headspace, but like mainly I want to just like chill out.
Yeah,
twiddle around.
Well, I wonder if too that's because you have so little time to just hang out. You know what I mean? If we had like all the time in the world to just like hang out and chill, maybe being alone, you could be like, okay, now I'm gonna focus and like recenter. I also think it depends on your personality.
Yeah.
When I'm alone, I actually am more productive. There's times in which I'm not more productive.
Sometimes you're productive just sitting next to me. How productive were you on the plane back from LA?
Oh my God.
I did nothing besides sit there
and
eat peanut M&Ms.
Every few minutes you'd be like, what can I do?
I was like, can I help with anything? Like, I'm essentially useless. And Joe was like, I just need you to sit here while I do this task. She was like doing something.
I just felt your supportive energy next to me.
Thank you. Great.
And you fed me peanut M&Ms here and there, you know?
Okay.
It also makes you more empathetic.
I want to talk about this one.
I'm ready.
I think this is very funny. Because it's a bit of a catch-22 that you need to be away from people to be empathetic towards them. And it is so true. If I have a day where I'm like out in the world, we'll take holiday shopping, right?
Yeah.
The amount of traffic, the amount of people, it's very easy to be like, oh man, these fucking idiots, and like be really like judgmental surface level, right? And then, you know, you go home, you think it through, and you're like, oh, everyone's having a hard time. Like, I could talk myself down, but how funny that I have to remove myself
to be more empathetic.
Yes, but the same thing in parenting, right? Like, it's like that's why I have to give myself timeouts as a mom.
Well, and you know, because I'm thinking especially about like holiday shopping, because just the thought of that is so overwhelming.
Yes.
I think a lot of it too is like you get to take care of yourself and your own needs when you're by yourself so that you can think about other people, right?
Okay, yeah.
If you can be empathetic towards yourself, then you can be empathetic towards other people. But when you're out holiday shopping, you have like no space for that.
Nothing.
You know what I mean? Just like completely overwhelming.
Okay.
So what do you think? I think it's hard for people. I also think there's a difference between choosing alone time and saying, like, this is a choice I want to make, and not choosing alone time, right? To say, like, I'm just alone. I don't really have a choice around that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's something to address, that there's also a difference between being alone and feeling lonely.
Yeah.
Because the two don't necessarily equate, right? Sometimes you could be alone and feel lonely. Sometimes you can be alone and not feel lonely. And I think sometimes people equate that. Like when you go out to a restaurant, you see someone sitting, or you're like, oh, people are going to think I'm lonely. They're going to think I don't have friends. They're going to think I don't have relationships, right? There's like this kind of social aspect of it where there's a fear around, are people going to think this about me?
And yeah, so do you feel like that's then like heightening the loneliness, right? Like if it's like, it's already something I feel like I don't have enough of, relationships in my life, and then I go and do this by myself, does that just like increase it for me? Like,
so I think what matters too is the meaning that you make about being alone, right? So like when you're alone, do you say, oh, I'm not likable, I don't have any friends, I don't have a relationship, this has to do with me.
Everyone else is hanging out.
Yeah. Right? You're on social media, you're seeing everyone's having a great time. This must mean something negative about me.
And I think for me, when I am like consciously and intentionally going to do alone time, like when you got me that hotel for the night, I like stayed off of social media because I didn't want to see that stuff, right? So if you are trying to then have like a very positive alone experience, like I would not then stare at shit that makes you feel bad.
And that's what happens with social media.
I know.
I think it also increases this like need to compare ourselves to others.
Yes.
And I think that
the cool stuff I'm doing when I'm alone.
Yeah, right. Right? Like I think it almost damages our alone time to be like, okay. So I think there's a bit of a mindset switch to go into, okay, I'm going to choose to take this alone time and do the things that feel good for me, right? And I think so often we can go into that place of the meaning that we make of the alone time being something negative about us. And that doesn't always have to be the case.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think, too, we talk about what are some ways to spend alone time. What are some ways to reconnect with yourself? What do you think?
So for me, it's like I like to think about it as like doing like an internal inventory. How am I feeling in regards to like, and I guess ironically, this could go back to resolution. You know what I mean? Like resolution doesn't have to be about like, I want to lose 10 pounds. It can be about like, where do I want to intentionally and consciously go this year? Right? And so like, how do I feel about my career? How do I feel about my friendships? How do I feel about my romantic relationships? How do I feel about how my fucking bedroom is organized? You know, like any of these things, like I like to have an inventory. Touch base, if you will.
Touch base with yourself.
Yes.
And sometimes the only way to do that is when you're alone. Yeah. Right? I think journaling can be a really good way to do that too. Sometimes when you're in your own head with your own thoughts, it's hard to organize them.
Yeah.
And say, how do I feel about that? How do I feel about my bedroom not being organized? I'm just going to use that example.
That's good, yeah.
I had a very vivid memory, picture of your bedroom when you said that. Mm-hmm. But your bedroom's gorgeous. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
because I can't also be with my partner in a messy bedroom. You know what I mean? Like, part of my bedroom thing is about intentionally having, sex with my partner.
And you know that about yourself. Yes. I mean, this could really come full circle to our whole message of know yourself, grow yourself.
Wow.
Because the more that you can get in touch with yourself and your own needs and the things that feel right for you, then the more you can act on that. And sometimes that's through journaling. Sometimes that's through going to therapy. But I think a lot of that takes having this alone time to recenter yourself and saying, how do I actually feel about all these things?
Okay. I have a question.
Yep.
We have listener questions.
Should we get into them?
Yeah, but I don't have them.
You do, I think.
I don't have that paper here.
Okay.
Do you?
I got it.
Okay.
Ready?
Someone will have to edit
that out. So sorry, that was good.
Okay, read the questions. Wait, I want to do some listener questions because I think one of the things that I've heard people say, clients of mine, is that, like, okay, so I try to do this, like, I go out and take myself out for the afternoon, and then I sit down and I start getting highly anxious. And I get out my phone and then I'm texting people and then I'm making plans. Like, there's like this unconscious, like, wave I feel of, like, energy.
And I think sometimes it's a coping mechanism to not be alone, right? Yeah. Like, to stay away from your own feelings. And that there's times in which that might be a really productive coping mechanism, right? If there's, like, a lot of stress in your life, you need support, you need to be around people. Mm-hmm. But if it gets to the point where you can never...
Yeah, what's avoidance?
Right. If it ends up being avoidance, you're never able to sit with yourself or sit with your emotions. So maybe something to ask yourself too, like, what's the reason why I feel so anxious when I'm sitting by myself and I don't have plans? So let's get into some listener questions.
Okay.
Ready? Everyone says you should have a hobby. How the fuck do you find a hobby as an adult?
Well, I feel like you just gave such a good example, right? What did you like when you were younger? But also, you know what I've had clients do before is literally Google list of hobbies and then go down and try something new, right? Like, you can literally go down. Like, the cool thing about the internet is, like, you can find a ton of shit. Like, I fucking bet if you went on Pinterest and you were like, pretty aesthetically pleasing list of hobbies, it would come up, right? Like, some motherfucker made that on Canva and you can get it for yourself. And then you can, like, try shit out because, like, you really don't know until you know.
And it's okay to try things and not do it well. You probably will not be good at it when you first do it. I think that keeps people from trying a lot of things is, oh, what if I do it and I'm not good at it? You won't be good at it, especially if it's the first time you're doing it.
Well, okay, so for a long time, so in grad school, I was really into making candles.
Yes.
Remember that?
I do.
Like, for about, like, 6 years, I was very into making my own candles and doing the soy wax and doing the essential oils. I didn't like it anymore.
Okay.
And I think also because it started to become not about, like, creating something. People wanted them, and it was then presents, and then it was, like, refilling them for the office at one point.
Yes, we did we did it for, like, one of our, we made those little candles.
Yes, right, you know what I mean? Like, we did it for them, like, a promotional thing and a networking thing, and, like, it just wasn't fun anymore. And I think that's one of the things is, like, especially as millennials, like, I feel like we're the only generation that tries to monetize our hobbies. Like, oh my God, you're really good at that. You should get Etsy.
It's true. And we don't have to monetize them.
No, it can just be for joy.
I'm sorry that we monetized your
Well, we didn't think about it at the time, right? At the time, it seemed smart. Like, oh, cool, we can make homemade candles. We'll bring them to this fundraiser. You know what I mean?
Good at it.
I know, but then it wasn't fun.
Oh, God. That's another thing, too, to be able to do your hobby until it's no longer fun. Even if you're not monetizing it and you're like, I don't really enjoy doing this anymore.
Yes, like, I'm not into that.
Like the macrame I did.
You did.
For a second.
You know, I also do think part of this is like an ADHD thing. Like, there's like a TikTok that's like, if you have ADHD, how many like craft projects do you have that you stop doing? How much macrame materials did you buy?
A lot. They're great. There was also a point where, do you remember this, where I was painting furniture?
You were doing that.
I painted our landlord's side table. I don't know if I was supposed to do that, but I did it.
I don't think you were supposed to do that.
That's okay. He doesn't know. He definitely does not watch this.
Yeah, no shit.
there was a point where I was painting furniture. I painted this whole side table gold. I think that was my other landlords, my poor landlords. I'm just taking their furniture and painting them different colors.
So like, but like, it's okay. Like, it's okay to like explore different things, figure out what works. And I know it's hard when you're making like a financial commitment. So you can choose to do like there's like tons of places that do like craft classes. There's places you could go make candles. You can go to Color Me Mine. Oh shit.
We're good.
We can go to Color Me Mine. Jen's mic is falling. Things are chaotic here. Once again, you can go to Color Me Mime.
Just keep going. Color Me Mime.
This is not an advertisement.
Not the best.
For Color Me Mine. And here we are. Right? So like,
I love Color Me Mime. Is it Color Me Mime?
I don't know. Remember when you were a mime for Halloween?
You pick out, what's the worst is when you pick out those guys. Yeah. Yes. Thank you for reminding me of that blocked memory.
No problem.
Oh my God. That's going to haunt me now. Do you know how you go to Color Me Mime and you pick out all those colors and you're like, this is going to look so good, and then it comes out of the kiln and it looks like shit.
But you really enjoyed it for those 25 minutes.
You would always get like those colors that had like those little dots in it. Yes. And you would be like, oh, this is going to look so good. It never did. You know what I mean?
So what I would say is like, try something new and hard and unpleasant and weird and figure out if you like it. Just because other people have that hobby doesn't mean it has to be yours. And it doesn't mean that it has to look the way you think it's going to, right?
Yes.
A hobby can be, I sing loud as shit in my car and it sounds horrible. And you can love that and it can give you joy.
It can, and to piggyback off of that, it can be driving in your car, right? Yeah. Like you can just go for a drive. That can be a hobby, right?
Yeah,
it can be enough. Going on a hike, going for a walk. How does this work for me? How does this not work for me? Let's move on to another question.
Yes.
Okay, good one. What do you do when it starts feeling very lonely and depressing?
Okay, so here's once again, this goes to the difference. It is people that are alone, specifically through this pandemic, people that like live by themselves. There's times where alone felt good and there's times where alone felt bad. And it doesn't mean that it's bad all the time or it's good all the time. Everything happens within context and circumstances. So I would also check in with yourself. What's making this feel different right now? What's bringing up those depressed feelings? What's bringing up the lower mood? Did anything change in the context and circumstances that is altering how I feel? Did all of a sudden I notice that I spent all morning on social media looking at people that are on a bachelorette party together and now I'm comparing, right? What shifted it for you?
That was just so beautiful. I have nothing to add. But something I was thinking about as my mic continues to fall on me. Something I was thinking about is that, so like I'm very introverted, as you know. I am very comfortable with alone time. But I get to a point, of course, like everyone, where I'm like, I need to see people. Like I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
I need to get out of my house. I need to see people. But sometimes when you're very stuck in that mode of like, I need my alone time, it makes it harder to push yourself to do those things or to reach out to people. So I think to also keep tabs on your tolerance level, or like when it starts to pass that line of, okay, I'm really enjoying my alone time, this is for me, to, okay, now do I want to be with people? Now who can I reach out to? Sometimes pushing yourself as an introvert to reach out to people, to feel connected to people, can be really challenging, especially when you have had a lot of alone time.
Yeah.
So notice when you get to that line where it starts to feel lonely and depressing. Once again, think about the meaning that you're making of that. That does not mean that people don't love you. That does not mean that you're a loser. That does not mean that there's something wrong with you. But might mean you need a little bit more social interaction. What does that look like? Does that look like reaching out to a friend? Does that look like just going outside and being around people in a park? Right? Doesn't necessarily mean you have to connect with people face to face. I mean, you can, but if you don't have that option, if people are far away, if you're in a new city, you can just go and be around people. Sometimes that energy can also feel less lonely. It can get you out of the house. So I think really knowing what your line is too and being very conscious of it. Mm-hmm. Another one? Love this one. How to make your partner understand you want alone time without them taking it personally.
I know this may have felt before like a rejection of you, and it actually has nothing to do with you. but I need some alone time to reset and to take care of me. But maybe we could also do something really special with the two of us this week.
I love spending time with you. I really enjoy the things we do together. You know, sometimes in order for me to regroup, I need to take some time for myself so that I can be a better partner in the relationship. Mm-hmm. This is what that looks like.
Boom. That's it.
Done.
Right? Like, and I think the thing is, like, if your partner gets hurt, they were already hurting. It doesn't mean you're causing that. If your partner's having a reaction, as opposed to not taking the alone time, meet them with compassionate curiosity of, okay, so what about that feels so rejecting to you? What about that feels so personal? What's coming up for you when I ask for this space? And instead of going back and just saying, okay, whatever, I won't go on that retreat, or whatever, I just won't do this, instead, ask them and understand and still do what you need.
Right. Like hold on to yourself, yes, even if they're reacting.
Yep.
For you to make sure you don't get defensive in that, right? Because then it turns into an argument about it. Where let's say they get really angry or they're like, oh, I can't believe you. You know, we made these plans, blah, blah, blah. Like, I hear you. I hear that that's really hard. You know, I still really need this, right? For you to hold on to yourself in those moments, still have this conversation is really important, because if you just relinquish that every time they get upset, you are going to grow so resentful in your relationship. To not get that alone time, to not be able to give that to yourself. So it's, and it might be part of the process is if this isn't something that you're used to doing in your relationship, your partner might have to adjust. Like it might take some adjustment for them. They might be more reactive to it. And that's okay. And so you creating that space for yourself is really important. And there might be an adjustment period. So.
Perfect.
On to the next.
All right. One more question.
One more question. You ready?
Yes. Somebody asked about like too much alone time. Wait, can we read that one?
Mm-hmm. You know I am too comfortable being alone, to be honest. I don't even want to date anymore.
So, I think that is one, once again, what was happening in those interactions of dating? What wasn't working for you? I'm not saying you should or shouldn't be dating. That's 100% a personal decision to make. And maybe you simply don't want to date right now. But I also wonder if the type of dating really sucked and really drained you.
And if there's like fear around losing yourself in a relationship.
Yeah.
Right? If I get in, or this is what a relationship is supposed to look like, you can look at what were your models of relationships.
Did I have parents that were always together? So I'm assuming I have to do that with a partner.
Right. Like, did your parents lose themselves in their own relationship?
So then maybe you're going to hold on with a freaking death grip to not have that happen to you.
Right. And say like, oh, that means I just can't date. And that's fine if that's what you want. Right? I mean, that's totally fine. But know that you get to also make the rules in your relationship and communicate your needs, and that might be a skill that you have to learn if that's not something you've learned before, and be able to practice that in your relationship, to say, going into something like, hey, just to let you know, like, I really also like my alone time, and this is what that can look like. Every relationship is different, so you get to figure out what works for you. If a partner says to you, well, like, I never want my alone time, I want to be with you all the time, maybe it's not the right person for you.
Yeah.
Right? Different levels of what you need in the relationship, and you can look for that in partners. You can say, this is important to me. What's important to you with alone time?
So do we have a dear Jen and M to end with? Maybe not. Maybe we should do questions.
Like a random, you want a random one?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Very prepared.
I'll do a short one.
I mean, I don't even have the fucking papers, so like, You're killing it.
Dear Em and Jen, I'm 26 and grew up as the appeaser in my family. Struggled through a lot of family conflict and felt I always had to make sure everyone was okay. Now as an adult, I feel I do this in my relationships. I don't want people to leave me, so I prioritize their comfort over my own. This was perfect. I did not plan this. Do you have small steps someone could take to prioritize their own wants and needs and still consider others, of course, but I'd like to make decisions based just off of what I want? That couldn't have been a better Dear Em and Jen.
Right? Okay, so my first thought was, when they talk about small steps, mine would be, how is your time spent? How much of your time is based on their schedule and the adjustment you made to them? Right? So all of a sudden, do I go to their workout classes, or do I make sure that I eat dinner at the time they want? Right? Time and time management, how much of that has been made into the other person? And what would it look like, and what would it feel like to take an hour of that back a day to say, okay, so from 3 to 4 every single day, it's just about me, right? Like, it can start in very, very small steps just like that.
And I think you have to be very conscious of this too when you move in with someone, when you live with someone.
Yeah.
When there's less physical boundaries, right? Like, so when you're dating someone and you're living in two separate, there's more of an ability to say, okay, what do I want for myself? What am I doing? When you move in with someone, it's so much easier to get caught up with what does the other person want? What's going on? I need to make sure that I appease them. So be very conscious of that when you move in with someone, because having those physical boundaries makes it a little bit easier. When those physical boundaries aren't as present, you might have to create space within your house to say, like, where can I go to get my alone time? Where can I go to figure out what do I want for myself? And if you're someone who that doesn't come naturally, and in your family it was a survival mechanism for you to make sure that everyone was happy, to focus on everyone else's needs, then it is going to be uncomfortable for you to say, what are my needs and what's going on with me and how do I assert that in a relationship? So know that it's not going to feel comfortable, but just as you're saying, it's very important, and it's really important for you to be able to do so, because it sounds like there's a fear of losing yourself in the relationship. So the more you're able to consciously set those boundaries for yourself, and also before that, even just know what you need, the more you're going to be able to communicate it, and the more you can have those boundaries in your relationship.
You know, and it's really interesting because next week's episode is about lying. And the amount of people that wrote in about lying because, one, they don't want to upset anyone, they want to appease people. Conflict. So a lot of this goes into our episode about lying.
So stay tuned.
Hey, thanks for joining us this week. If you like this episode, we always appreciate if you rate, review, subscribe. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, and you can also now do it on Spotify. You can rate and review us, I guess. They just added that, so that's super cool.
So give us a rating.
Right, we appreciate that. If you think a friend enjoyed this, send it over to this. You can also check us out on YouTube now and watch us be hilarious on video.
And watch my mic fall over.
And there you go, pure entertainment. Thank you for being here. We can't wait to talk to you next week. And to grow yourself, you gotta know yourself.